Okay, so the next one. Find the value of x such that 1 plus x over x equals root 5, giving your answer in the form a plus b root 5, where a and b are rational numbers. Okay, so you want to get rid of the x on the denominator. So to get rid of this x on the bottom, you want to do the opposite. The opposite of division would be multiplication, but you have to do the same to both sides. So let's multiply through by x, okay? So if you multiply by x on the left-hand side, you're just going to be left with the numerator. So you've got 1 plus x equals x over to this side, you've got x root 5. Okay, all I've done is just multiply both sides by x. If I multiply this side by x, it cancels out with this x on the denominator, because multiplication is the opposite of division. So you're just left with 1 plus x. On the right hand side, I multiply by x, hence x root 5. Okay, nothing too bad so far. Okay, so any question that says find the value of x means you've got to isolate x. Okay, so you want x typically on the left hand side, so your final answer would be x equals something. So I would get all the x's on the left hand side and all the other numbers on the right hand side. So I'll take x minus x root 5 over to the left hand side, and I'll take 1 over to the right hand side, one bit at a time. So first of all, maybe I'll take the one across first. So we'll say x equals x root 5 minus 1. Okay, fairly straightforward. It's positive on this side, so I have to subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, let's get the x root 5 on the left hand side. So we've got x minus x root 5 equals minus 1. Okay, I want to isolate the x. I'm going to take x out as a common factor. So we've got x bracket 1 minus root 5 equals negative 1. How do I isolate the x? Well, I could just divide the negative 1 by 1 minus root 5. So that's going to give me x equals negative 1 over 1 minus root 5. Okay, so now we're at this stage. We can't leave it like this. The denominator is irrational. How do we rationalize it? So we have to multiply by the reciprocal, known as the conjugate. So hopefully you realize that means you have to multiply top and bottom by, like I say, the reciprocals, which in this case, you just change the sign in the middle. 1 plus root 5, I multiply the bottom by 1 plus root 5. Okay, so we take that up here. So negative 1 times 1 plus root 5, which you can multiply through by negative 1, that would give us, so we've got x equals negative 1 minus root 5, fairly straightforward. On the bottom, we can use FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. So first 1 times 1 would be 1. Outside, plus root 5 times minus root 5 would just cancel. Minus root 5 times plus root 5 would be minus 5. So we've got x equals minus 1 minus root 5 over negative 4. Can simplify that a bit. We've got x equals, if you want to split that up separately, you've got minus 1 over minus 4. And you could write it like that if you just want to add the minus root 5 over minus 4. Okay, that plus is just to show you that the two parts are separate. Okay, and from that you should see the negatives would cancel, so you're left with 1/4 plus root 5 over 4. And that's your final answer. Okay, so quite a lot of work there, but again, it's a past exam paper question and it's 4 marks. Even though there's way more than 4 lines here, it's not obvious that you're going to jump from here to here without putting the work in. Okay. Okay, let's try the next question. So, show that 5 plus root 3 divided by 2 minus root 3 can be written as 13 plus 7 root 3. Okay, so again, this question is very similar to the last one. You should recognize that the denominator here is irrational. Okay, so how do we get rid of that? How do we make it rational? We're going to have to multiply by the reciprocal, known as the conjugate. Yeah, and the more you do these, the more you'll see that they're all quite similar. Okay, so the conjugate would be 2 plus root 3 to the denominator and do the exact same to the numerator. Okay, multiply 2 plus root 3 to 5 plus root 3 and multiply 2 minus root 3 by 2 plus root 3. Okay, hopefully you see this is the same and it's the inverse of this. All you're doing is changing the sign. to make it rational. Okay, so to multiply through, we're going to have to use FOIL. To make it easier, you could put brackets round the numerator and denominator on the left hand side, if that makes it any easier, because typically when you use FOIL, you have the two sets of brackets laid out like that, if that makes it easier. So you'd say 5 times 2, that's going to be 10. So that's first outside, 5 times root 3 plus the inside, which would be 2 root 3. So 5 root 3 plus 2 root 3 would be 7 root 3. And then the last would be root 3 times root 3 would just be 3. Root 3 squared, essentially, would just cancel to 3. Okay, and what about the denominator? First, 2 times 2, that would be 4. Outside, so you've got 2 times root 3 would be 2 root 3 minus 2 root 3 would just cancel. Okay, that's what you, if they don't cancel, you've done something wrong. Okay, that's what you should typically do. So 2 root 3 minus 2 root 3 would cancel. Minus root 3 times root 3 would be minus 3. Again, root 3 squared is just 3. Okay, so what does that simplify to? So 10 plus 3 would be 13 plus 7 root 3 all over 1. Anything divided by 1 would just cancel, so therefore we're left with 13 plus 7 root 3, which is what the question asked for. Okay, 13 plus 7 root 3. Again, past exam paper question, 3 marks. The key to this question is just understanding what to do here. Change the sign and multiply top and bottom by the same value. It should just fall into place. Right, let's try the next one. So, show that 1 minus root 2 divided by 3 plus 2 root 2 can be written as 7 minus 5 root 2. So, as this question is 3 marks, and you typically want to stick to a mark a minute in the A-level paper, what I would do is I would just pause the video for 3 minutes, try and be strict, 3 minutes, and then unpause the video and we'll go through it together. Okay? So, very similar to before, we've got the irrational denominator. How do we get rid of that? We do the reciprocal, known as the conjugate. So we're going to do 3 minus 2 root 2 and then multiply the numerator by the same value. 3 minus 2 root 2. And again, as we're going to be using FOIL, I would put the brackets in. I think that just makes it a bit more straightforward. So, again, using FOIL, first 1 times 3 would be 3. Outside, multiply by the inside, so minus 2 root 2 minus 3 root 2 would be minus 5 root 2. Okay? Minus 2 root 2 minus 3 root 2. Make sure you double check the signs. Okay? It would be minus 5 root 2. And then last would be a minus times a minus, so it's going to be positive, whatever it is. 2 root 2 times root 2. So effectively, forget this 2 for a second. Root 2 squared is just 2. 2 times 2 would be 4. Okay. Let's look at the denominator. So again, first 3 times 3 would be 9. So remember, as I said before, if you've applied this conjugate correctly, the reciprocal of this value, then when you multiply through using the FOIL process, then you should, the outside and the inside value should cancel. The first and last values should still be available. They should still be present on the denominator. But if you've done it correctly, if you've done the reciprocal correctly, the outside and the inside values will cancel. So let's see if that's right. So minus, what's 3 times 2? Minus 6 root 2 plus 6 root 2. Good. Minus 6 root 2 plus 6 root 2 would just cancel, which means you're left with a positive times a minus, which is going to give us a minus. 2 root 2 times 2 root 2. So take the root 2's first. Root 2 squared is just 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is what? 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Okay, so any question when you're multiplying a surd with a surd, if there's a coefficient in front of it, as there is in this case, I would just cover that up. Okay, so you take the 2's out for a second, and you've got the root 2 times root 2. The root of any number squared, you're just left with that number. So root 2 squared, the squared and the square root cancel each other out, so you're just left with 2. So it's 2 times whatever the coefficients are. 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Okay? So what have we got? 3 minus 5 root 2 plus 4, so 3 and 4 can come together, so that was going to give you 7 minus 5 root 2. 9 minus 8 is just 1, okay? 7 minus 5 root 2 over 1 is the same as 7 minus 5 root 2, okay? Which is what they'd asked for. And that's it. For maths tuition, in person or online, you can visit the website at analogos.co.uk. The link is in the description.